What's Gucci with a veterans military? Back again with another banger. Today we're going to be talking about starting a series explaining everything you need to know about PTSD. Post-traumatic. Okay, while over here, post-traumatic stress disorder. My dog kind of lost my train of thought, but hey, this is straight from the M21-1 adjudication manual. Gives you all the information you need to know how the VA plans, well, not even plan, how the VA processes VA disability claims for PTSD, whether it be combat-related PTSD, non-combat-related PTSD, or personal assault/trauma. So the main thing what veterans need to understand is what is a stressor, because I would say 70% of VA disability claims for PTSD specific lack a stressor. So here's the definition for us. The stressor, a PTSD stressor is a traumatic event or series of events in which an individual has been personally or indirectly exposed to actual or threatened death, serious injury, or SA. I ain't gonna say it on here because we know how YouTube be. Anyways, moving on from there. Claim processors need to identify which stressor type a veteran claim falls under. This is what y'all really need to understand as well. So whenever you're going into your psychiatrist, your therapist, whether it be if you're still active duty, tuning in, or if you're a veteran, you need to establish what your stressor is. Okay, where does your stressor fall as? In service, personal assault, combat or former prisoner of war, POW, fear or stressful event unrelated to hostile military or terrorist activity. So we all understand what these mean. Next slide. Here we got, hey, this is important. I'm not going to take the entire M21-1. Y'all can go over there and read that. I'm just pointing out the most important areas of this. So it's the responsibility of the Veterans Benefit Administration claims processors to establish the occurrence of the event the veteran claims to have resulted in PTSD. So you definitely need to be talking with your therapist. Make sure they're documenting everything, writing everything down. You shouldn't be seeing a therapist for, once a week for the last 52 weeks and they still don't know your stressor. If they don't know it, it's either they suck at their job or you're not being open enough. Stop avoiding opening yourself up to these therapists in order to receive a diagnosis after your stressor has been identified. So if your stressor is not identified, you will not receive a diagnosis of PTSD. That's why it's very important and very clear that you establish this, whether it's in the military, in service, post-military. A lot of veterans wait post-military because they want to make it to 20 years. They want to still qualify on the rifle range. They still want to hold their billet. Whatever the case may be, hey, now it's time to start working on your PTSD claim. Do it the right way. Be open, forthcoming, and expose yourself to your therapist. Your exposure is going to heal you at the same time, as well as put you in a good spot. Hopefully, your stressor is going to be identified early on versus long. So, moving on from that. So, let's take this PTSD claim, for example. This veteran was denied PTSD by the VA due to lack of in-service complaints, lack of a stressor identified. Regardless, even though this veteran had a diagnosis and a stressor identified from a VA medical facility, the veteran went into two different C&P exams. The first one was conducted April 12, 2023, and the examiner documented based on the symptomology, reviewed the report, DSM-5, as well as that interview with the veteran. They do not meet the criteria for PTSD. Okay, cool. Veteran did not report a stressor that meets PTSD criteria. Okay, cool. Then, they reviewed his treatment records at his VA medical facility. Notice they documented that yes, he has a diagnosis from there, and they requested another examination to verify if his PTSD diagnosis is even legit. So, a month later, May 23rd, 2023, once again, the veteran went in, they reviewed all his medical evidence, DSM-5, DBQ, all of it again. Veteran probably went in there mad. Once again, the veteran does not meet the diagnostic criteria for PTSD. Cool. And when they say favorable findings, it's just pretty much like, hey, try again. Because whatever you're saying, nothing is legit. It's not adding up. Between the lack of in-service complaints, which hurts a lot of veterans, the fact that you did not complain a single time about anything mental health during your time in service hurts you once you get out the military if you're trying to get it service connected. PTSD, regardless of whatever form you are trying to get service connected, is the most difficult mental health disability to get service connected. Due to what? The main issue, due to a lack of in-service complaints. And once you've established the reason why you didn't complain, you will still then need to have your stressor identified before you even get a diagnosis. So the VA they attempted 2 times to get this veteran service connected, or at least verify twice that, hey, you don't meet the criteria. So whoever you're talking to, whatever therapist at the VA you're talking to, tell them to do better. Definitely, because it shouldn't be a reason why this veteran got denied. However, it could be due to the veteran not being open and honest. He went to 2 CMP exams. I'm not sure how much FaceTime he's seeing with his actual therapist, but we don't know that. So, hey, moving on. A medical professional makes a determination of whether an event is sufficient to meet the stressor criteria for a diagnosis of PTSD. This is just what I was saying. So, what are some examples of stressors? Combat-related PTSD. An example could be combat. Easy. It's simple. Most veterans, if they got a combat action ribbon, that can be medical evidence that can be utilized for PTSD, either direct or indirect. So, when it comes to direct, maybe your squad, your platoon, was ambushed when you was in Fallujah, when you was in various parts of Afghanistan, whatever the case may be, wherever your unit was deployed in a combat zone, whether you was patrolling and you got ambushed, or if you was on base and they got bombed, they got bombarded. So, what's the case? That is the event. What was the aftermath of that? How did you respond during the event? Were you cold? Were you alert? Were you scared? Did you shut down? What was the case? Explain all of this to your therapist. Do it right the first time. You're not going to have to be spending multiple months, years possibly, waiting for your therapist to identify that stressor and give you a diagnosis. Now, just a little caveat, if veterans are going to the VA medical facility solely, I suggest y'all you got to get that established right away, because I've seen a lot of veterans go years, at least at the VA medical facility, without ever getting a diagnosis. If you're going years, if you're going past a year, it's a problem. Hey, what's going on? It's either you or it's that therapist. And you need to take a moment, step back, see what's going on, evaluate yourself, and then move forward from that. Because it shouldn't take more than a year to get your stressor identified and a diagnosis. Moving on. So, this is some of the information that the VA will be able to utilize in order to identify your stressor in the event you can't articulate it yourself. But at the same time, even if you are very articulate, all of this information is going to be good. It's a plus up to the claim. So let's go down the list. Service personnel records and pay records, meaning hazardous duty pay, combat pay, hostile fire pay, whatever the case may be. Any deployed payment records that's in your file, you can download that. hopefully you should be able to download that prior to separating from the military. If you don't have that, it's cool. You still might have access to DFAS, where you can go on there and download it as well. Military occupational evidence. So if you're, forward observer, if you are a special forces, if you're EOD, recon, force recon, whatever the case may be, tip of the spear, baby, that information can be utilized. Hazardous pay records, I already went into that. Service treatment records, just general, your medical records that you do, mainly semi-annual and annual requirements, as well as anything outside of that. Now, when we got military performance reports, usually only non-commissioned officers and higher, as well as officers, obviously, receive performance reports. On these performance reports, you'll be able to list your combat-related history, list if you deployed, get detailed with it. You can utilize this information as evidence. Verification that the veteran received combat, already went into that, combat, imminent danger, or hostile fire pay, unit or organizational histories. So every unit has organizational awards as well as archives. What has this unit been doing over the years? How many deployments? Whether it be in support of security operations and daily staff journals. So when it comes to daily staff journals, operational reports, lesson learned. So after every deployment and almost after every conflict, deployment, every mission, there's a lessons learned. And it's pretty much what did you do during the event and how could you do it better? What are some things, what are some takeaways? What are some things that you can do in order to prevent risk, to eliminate risk at all? You can't eliminate risk, but you can prevent it or minimize it. So what risk mitigation techniques will you utilize next time in order to better identify IEDs, to better identify the surroundings so you're not getting, and this is all, this is mainly, all this information is towards combat-related PTSD. However, I will, later in the series, get to the other versions of it. So then we got radio logs, deck logs, and ship histories. Pretty much this is all the information. If you're on a naval ship, you'll be able to reach back to them. They usually maintain records for, I think it's 10 years, but you definitely got to check the records management with the DoD, see how long it's been since you've been out, as well as if you'll be able to obtain that information. But you should be able to. So, hey, if you're within that destruction period. Moving on. Then we got command chronologies and war diaries. Already explained that earlier. Monthly summaries and morning reports. So, monthly summaries, pretty much. So the monthly status reports or monthly summaries is pretty much everything that you've been doing in the last month. It's just it's a sum up. Like if you had 13 convoys, okay, cool. How many of those convoys were ambushed? Maybe 1 or 2. Cool. You can utilize that information. Morning reports is direct information taken from the last 24 hours. What's going on? What you did? What's the plan for today? What's the course of action? And hey, that's pretty much it for episode 1 of understanding how the VA rates PTSD, combat related, non-combat related, as well as personal assault. You like this information? Let your fucking boy know. Stay Gucci with it.